The massive warship floated in the darkness of space like a predator waiting to strike. Inside the command center of the Zorthak Empire's flagship, Commander Krextal stood with his forearms crossed, watching the small blue planet on the main screen. Earth, such a tiny, insignificant world. How dare they refuse the Empire's generous offer of surrender? Commander, the humans have sent another message, his communications officer announced, his tentacles dancing over the control panel. Put it through, Krextal ordered, his mandibles clicking with annoyance. A human face appeared on the screen. It was Admiral Sarah Chun, the leader of Earth's United Defense Forces. She looked tired but determined, her dark eyes burning with a fire that Krextal found amusing. Commander Krextal, she began, her voice steady despite the situation. I'll say this one more time. Remove your fleet from our solar system immediately. This is your final warning. The bridge erupted in laughter. The Zorthak officers found the humans' courage entertaining. Their empire had conquered 1,000 worlds. What could one small planet do against them? Krextal leaned forward, his massive form casting shadows across the bridge. Admiral Chun, you amuse me. Your species has barely left your own planet. You have no colonies, no allies, no fleet worth mentioning. We offer you the chance to join our empire peacefully. Refuse, and we will take your world by force. Then, you leave us no choice, Admiral Chun replied. Her expression hardened. You want war? Prepare to be erased. The transmission ended abruptly. Krextal stood in silence for a moment, then burst into laughter again. Did she just threaten us? The mighty Zorthak Empire? Prepare the invasion force. Let's show these primitives what real power looks like. But something strange was happening on Earth. In underground bunkers and secret facilities, humans were preparing something. Not weapons in the traditional sense, but something far more dangerous. For you see, humans had a secret. They had spent the last 50 years reverse engineering a crashed alien probe, and what they discovered changed everything. Dr. Marcus Thompson stood in the heart of Project Erasure, humanity's most classified installation. Around him, thousands of scientists and engineers worked frantically on the device that would either save humanity or destroy them all. The quantum reality manipulator, or QRM as they called it, was unlike anything any species in the galaxy had ever created. Status report, Dr. Thompson called out, his voice echoing in a massive underground chamber. QRM is at 90% charge, replied Dr. Lisa Park, the project's lead physicist. But, Marcus, we've never tested it at full power. The simulation suggests it could work, but the risk— I know the risk, Thompson interrupted. But look at the alternative. The Zorthak will enslave our entire species. They've done it to countless worlds. We have one shot at this. The principle behind the QRM was both simple and terrifyingly complex. Instead of destroying matter in the conventional sense, it manipulated quantum probability fields. It could make things that existed not exist. Not destroyed, not moved, but simply erased from reality as if they had never been. Above Earth's surface, panic had gripped the major cities. The Zorthak fleet was massive, over 10,000 ships strong. News broadcasts showed the alien armada blotting out the stars, a sight that would have broken the spirit of most species. But humans were different. Instead of despair, there was determination. Instead of surrender, defiance. In New York, London, Tokyo, and every major city, evacuation procedures were underway. Not to flee the planet, but to move populations to designated safe zones. The governments of Earth had united like never before, sharing resources and information freely. Old enemies worked side by side, because in the face of extinction, past grievances seemed petty. Captain James Rodriguez of the Earth Defense Force stood on the bridge of humanity's largest warship, the ESS Defiance. It was laughably small compared to even the smallest Zorthak vessel, but it would play a crucial role in the plan. His job was not to win a conventional battle. That was impossible. His job was to buy time and provide the perfect target. All ships report ready, Captain, his tactical officer reported. The fleet is in position. Earth's fleet consisted of only 200 ships, most of them hastily converted cargo vessels with weapons strapped to their hulls. Against the Zorthak armada, they were gnats attacking a bear. But that was the point. Remember everyone, Rodriguez broadcast to his fleet. We're not here to win. We're here to make them angry. Make them commit. The angrier they are, the more forces they'll bring to bear, and the better target they'll make. For Earth. For Earth, came the reply from 200 ships. Back on the Zorthak flagship, Commander Krextal watched the pathetic human fleet arrange itself in defensive positions around Earth. Are they serious? 200 ships? I have more fighters in my personal escort. Commander, we're detecting unusual energy readings from the planet's surface, the science officer reported. The patterns don't match any known technology. Krextal dismissed the concern with a wave of his upper arms. Probably some primitive nuclear devices. They can't hurt us through our shields. Begin the attack. I want this over quickly. The first wave of Zorthak fighters launched, thousands of them swarming toward Earth like metallic locusts. The human fleet met them head-on, their weapons firing desperately. The battle was as one-sided as expected. Human ships exploded one after another, their inferior shields and armor no match for Zorthak technology. But something unexpected happened. The humans didn't retreat. When their ships were damaged, they rammed them into Zorthak vessels. When their weapons failed, they overloaded their reactors and turned their ships into bombs. It was madness, but it was effective madness. For every 100 human casualties, they managed to take down 1 or 2 Zorthak ships. They're insane, one of Krextal's officers exclaimed. They're throwing their lives away. No, Krextal said slowly, a new respect entering his voice. They're buying time. But for what? Deep beneath the surface, Dr. Thompson watched the battle through satellite feeds. Each destroyed human ship was like a knife in his heart, but those brave souls were giving them the time they needed. QRM at 95%, Dr. Park announced. 5 more minutes. Thompson opened a channel to Admiral Chun. Admiral, we're almost ready. You need to get them to commit their entire fleet. Everything they have. Admiral Chen's face was grim on the screen. Understood. God help us all. She turned to her communication officer. Open a channel to the Zorthak commander. Make sure every ship in their fleet receives it. When Krextal's image appeared, Admiral Chun stood tall. Commander, I'm going to make you an offer. Single combat. You and me. If I win, your fleet leaves. If you win, Earth surrenders unconditionally. The bridge of the Zorthak flagship erupted in laughter again. Single combat? Against me? I'm 3 times your size and 5 times your strength. This is ridiculous. What's wrong, Commander? Afraid of one small human. Chun taunted. Or are the mighty Zorthak cowards who only fight when they outnumber their enemies 50,000 to 1? The laughter stopped. Krextal's eyes narrowed. No one called a Zorthak a coward and lived. You know what, human? I accept. But not just you and me. Bring your entire pathetic fleet to these coordinates. He transmitted a location just outside Earth's orbit. I'll bring mine. We'll settle this once and for all. And when I crush your skull with my bear claws, your people will watch and know despair. 1 hour. Chun agreed and cut the transmission. It was a trap, and both sides knew it. But Krextal's pride wouldn't let him back down now, and Chun was counting on that. The entire Zorthak fleet began moving to the designated coordinates, forming up in attack formation. It was an impressive sight. 10,000 ships arranged in perfect formation, their weapons powered and ready. The remnants of Earth's fleet, now down to less than 100 ships, took position opposite them. It looked like an execution squad facing a single prisoner. In the underground facility, Dr. Thompson's hands trembled as he entered the final activation codes. QRM at 100% charge. Quantum field generators online. Reality anchors in place. We're ready. Marcus, Dr. Park said quietly. Once we fire this, there's no going back. We're not just destroying them. We're erasing them from existence. Their families, their worlds, they'll never know what happened to them. They'll simply cease to have ever been. Thompson met her eyes. I know, but they came here to enslave us. They've done it to countless worlds. How many billions have suffered because of them? Sometimes, to save lives, you have to make the hard choice. Above them, the 2 fleets faced each other. Admiral Chin stood on the bridge of her flagship, the ESS Humanity. The ship was already damaged from the earlier fighting, but it still flew proud. Admiral, all Zorthak ships are in position, her tactical officer reported. They're exactly where we need them. Chin nodded and opened a channel to Krextal. Commander, before we begin, I want to ask you one last time. Leave our system. This is your final chance. Krextal appeared on screen, his mandibles spread in what passed for a grin among his species. Still trying to bargain, human? Very well. I'll make you a counteroffer. Surrender now, and I'll make your death quick. Refuse, and I'll make you watch as we glass your entire planet. Then, you've made your choice, Chen said sadly. Remember, we offered you peace. She turned to her crew. All hands, this is Admiral Chun. It's been an honor serving with you. Whatever happens next, know that you are heroes. Signal Dr. Thompson. Tell him it's time. Deep underground, Thompson received the signal. His finger hovered over the activation button. Once pressed, there would be no stopping the process. The QRM would fire, and the quantum cascade would begin. For Earth, he whispered and pressed the button. At first, nothing seemed to happen. The massive machine hummed louder, energy coursing through its alien-inspired circuitry. Then, reality itself began to ripple. It started as a small distortion, barely visible, emanating from Earth's surface. On the Zorthak flagship, alarms began blaring. Commander, unknown energy surged from the planet. It's impossible. The readings don't make sense. Krextal leaned forward. What do you mean? The fabric of space-time is being manipulated. The quantum field is... Commander, I don't understand what I'm seeing. The ripple in reality grew larger, expanding outward like a wave. But this was no ordinary wave. Where it passed, things simply ceased to be. Not destroyed, not vaporized, but erased. A Zorthak fighter at the edge of the formation was touched by the wave. In an instant, it wasn't there. Not debris, not atoms, nothing. The space where it had been was empty, as if it had never existed at all. Pull back. All ships retreat. But it was too late. The wave was accelerating, growing larger, and moving faster. The Zorthak fleet tried to flee, their engines burning at maximum power. Some ships activated emergency jump drives, trying to tear holes in space to escape. Nothing worked. The wave caught them one by one, they simply stopped existing. On Earth, Dr. Thompson watched the readings with a mixture of awe and horror. It's working. Dear God, it's actually working. The quantum cascade was beautiful in its terrible simplicity. By manipulating the fundamental forces that determined what could and could not exist in their reality, the QRM had created a targeted erasure field. It was programmed to identify Zorthak technology and biology and simply remove it from the equation of existence. Krextal's flagship was one of the last to be caught. The mighty commander stood on his bridge, watching his empire's greatest fleet disappear like morning mist. In his final moments, he understood the truth. Humans weren't primitive. They weren't weak. They had simply hidden their true power, and in their desperation, they had created something that should never have existed. You want war? Prepare to be erased. He repeated Admiral Chen's words as the wave reached his ship. And then he wasn't. In the span of 10 minutes, the entire Zorthak invasion fleet had been erased from reality. Where 10,000 ships had threatened Earth, now there was only empty space. On planets across the galaxy, Zorthak citizens would wonder why their loved ones never returned, never knowing that they had been erased so completely that no trace remained. Admiral Chen stood on her bridge, tears streaming down her face. They had won, but at what cost? Not just the brave humans who had died buying time, but the moral cost of using such a weapon. Admiral, her communications officer spoke softly. Dr. Thompson is requesting to speak with you. Thompson's face appeared on the screen. He looked older, as if the weight of what they'd done had aged him years and minutes. It's done, Admiral. The QRM worked exactly as designed. The Zorthak fleet has been removed. What have we done, Marcus? Chen asked. What have we become? Survivors, Thompson replied. And now Guardians? The QRM will be dismantled after today. The knowledge of how to build it will be scattered, hidden, hopefully lost. No one should have this power. But even as he spoke, both of them knew the truth. The universe had just learned a terrible lesson about humanity. They were not a species to be conquered or enslaved. Push them too far, and they would do the unthinkable. In the days that followed, word spread across the galaxy. The mighty Zorthak Empire had sent their greatest fleet to conquer a small, insignificant planet, and that fleet had simply vanished. No debris, no registro signals, no explanation. Just gone. Some species would claim it was a natural phenomenon, a cosmic anomaly that had swallowed the fleet. Others whispered of ancient weapons, of technologies that should remain buried. But a few, the wise ones, understood the message: leave humanity alone. Earth began to rebuild, but it was a different world now. They had faced extinction and survived, but the method of their survival would haunt them. In schools, children would learn about the day Earth stood alone against an empire and won. But they would also learn about the cost of that victory and why some weapons should never be used. The QRM was indeed dismantled, its components scattered across the planet and beyond. But the knowledge remained, locked away in the minds of those who had built it. A final deterrent against any who would threaten Earth's survival. And in the depths of space, where the Zorthak fleet had made its last stand, there was nothing. No memorial, no wreckage, no trace that 10,000 ships and 1,000,000 lives had once existed there. Just empty space and a warning that echoed across the cosmos. Humanity could be pushed, but pushed too far, and they would erase you from existence itself. Years later, when alien traders and diplomats came to Earth, they came in peace. They traded fairly, they respected humanity's sovereignty, and they never, ever threatened war. For they had learned what the Zorthak Empire had learned too late. Humans were capable of anything when their survival was at stake. And somewhere in a classified vault, the plans for the QRM waited, gathering dust, but never forgotten. A reminder of the day humanity declared, "You want war? Prepare to be erased." The aftermath of the Zorthak erasure sent shockwaves through the galaxy that no one could have predicted. In the grand halls of the Galactic Council, representatives from 100 different species gathered in emergency session. The massive chamber, built to accommodate beings of all shapes and sizes, buzzed with nervous energy. Ambassador Thrix of the Vellani Federation stood at the central podium, his crystalline form catching and reflecting the light. Esteemed colleagues, we are here to discuss the impossible. 3 weeks ago, the Zorthak Empire sent their 5th Armada to the Sol System. 10,000 ships, 1,000,000 of the galaxy's most feared warriors. They have vanished without a trace. A murmur ran through the assembly. The Zorthak Empire had been the boogeyman of the galaxy for centuries, conquering and enslaving with impunity. That their massive fleet could simply disappear was beyond comprehension. Perhaps they encountered a spatial anomaly, suggested the Ketheri representative, her multiple eyes blinking in sequence. The human system is on the edge of known space. Who knows what dangers lurk there? No anomaly could erase an entire fleet so completely, argued Ambassador Vorik of the Nexus Collective. His mechanical voice echoed through the chamber. Our probes have found nothing. No debris, no energy signatures, no distortion fields. It is as if they never existed. Meanwhile, on Earth, the reality of what humanity had done was beginning to sink in. In a secure conference room deep beneath the United Nations building, world leaders gathered around a holographic display showing the empty space where the Zorthak fleet had been. President Maria Santos of the Americas Union spoke first. "We won a victory that might have damned us. The galaxy will want answers." "Let them wonder," replied Chairman Li Wei of the Asian Cooperative. "The uncertainty is our greatest defense now. If they knew how the QRM worked, they might try to develop countermeasures." Prime Minister James Hartley of the European Alliance shook his head. "We can't hide forever. Already, 3 different species have sent diplomatic envoys. They're not threatening, but they're asking questions." Admiral Chun, who had been promoted to Supreme Commander of Earth's Defense Forces, stood at the head of the table. "Then, we give them answers that satisfy their curiosity without revealing the truth. We tell them we activated an ancient defense system left by a precursor race. It's not entirely a lie. We did reverse engineer alien technology. But what happens when the next threat comes?" asked President Amara Okonkwo of the African Federation. "We've dismantled the QRM. If another empire decides to test us, then we build it again." Dr. Thompson interjected from his seat at the far end of the table. He looked haggard, having barely slept since the erasure. "The knowledge exists. The principles are understood. What took us 50 years to develop the first time would take us perhaps 50 days the second time. But I pray we never have to. The discussion was interrupted by an urgent message. Earth's deep space sensors had detected ships approaching. Not a war fleet, but a diplomatic convoy from multiple species. 3 days later, the alien ambassadors stood in the UN Assembly Hall. It was a surreal sight, beings of impossible shapes and sizes, all focused on the human representatives. The Vellani ambassador's crystalline form chimed softly as he spoke. Humans of Earth, we come in peace and curiosity. The disappearance of the Zorthak fleet has concerned many of us. Not because we mourn their loss, they were conquerors and slavers, but because power that can erase such a force is power that can reshape the galaxy. Admiral Chun stood to address them. Ambassadors, Earth activated a final defense protocol when faced with extinction. It was not a weapon we created, but one we discovered. Ancient technology, left behind by those who came before. We do not fully understand it ourselves. It was a carefully crafted half-truth. They had indeed discovered the principles from the alien probe, but the application was entirely human innovation. The Kethari ambassador's eyes focused on Chun. Can this defense be activated again? We hope never to find out, Chun replied diplomatically. Earth wants peace. We want to join the galactic community as friends and trading partners. But we will defend ourselves if threatened. A reasonable position, the mechanical voice of the Nexus Collective Ambassador agreed. But you must understand, the power you've demonstrated changes everything. The Zorthak Empire's remaining forces are in chaos. 3 of their slave species have already rebelled, knowing their master's fleet is gone. The balance of power that has existed for millennia has shifted. This was the part Earth's leaders had not fully considered. By erasing the Zorthak fleet, they had created a power vacuum. Already, intelligence reports suggested that other aggressive species were eyeing former Zorthak territories. In the weeks that followed, Earth found itself in an unexpected position. Species that would have never noticed the small blue planet now sent trade delegations and alliance offers. Some came out of fear, wanting to befriend the species that had erased the Zorthak. Others came out of opportunism, seeing Earth as a new power player in galactic politics. Dr. Lisa Park found herself appointed as Earth's first ambassador to the Galactic Council. It was a role she had never imagined, but her understanding of the quantum physics behind the QRM made her uniquely qualified to deflect technical questions about Earth's ancient defense system. Her first council session was overwhelming. The chamber was filled with representatives from every major civilization in known space. Some floated in zero-gravity fields, others swam in specially designed tanks, and a few existed as pure energy contained in crystalline matrices. The council recognizes Ambassador Park of Earth, the ceremonial voice announced. Lisa stood, feeling very small and very human in the vast chamber. Honored representatives, Earth comes before you not as conquerors or wielders of terrible weapons, but as a young species seeking its place among the stars. We have defended ourselves when threatened, as any of you would. Now we seek peace, trade, and mutual understanding. Pretty words, growled Ambassador Kroger of the Thornicky hegemony. His species was militaristic, second only to the Zorthak in their aggression. But words do not erase fleets. What assurance do we have that Earth will not use this power again? What assurance did the galaxy have that the Zorthak would not continue their conquests? Lisa countered. They threatened us with slavery or death. We chose survival. Any species that approaches Earth in peace will find us peaceful. Any that come with threats. She let the sentence hang unfinished. The implied threat was clear, and it had the desired effect. The aggressive species in the council exchanged glances, reconsidering their positions. The peaceful species seemed to relax slightly, seeing Earth as a potential stabilizing force. Back on Earth, the integration into galactic society brought rapid changes. Alien traders arrived with technology and goods beyond human imagination. Medical devices that could cure cancer in minutes, energy sources that made fusion power look primitive, and computational systems that made quantum computers seem like abacuses. But with the benefits came challenges. Earth's economy struggled to adapt to galactic standards. Many human industries became obsolete overnight. Why manufacture cars when alien hover vehicles were superior in every way? Why grow food when replicator technology could create any meal from base elements? President Santos convened an emergency economic summit. We're facing a crisis unlike anything in human history. Our entire economic system is becoming irrelevant. Not entirely, argued Dr. Yuki Tanaka, Earth's leading economist. Humans have something unique to offer: our creativity, our art, our perspective. Already, alien collectors are paying premium prices for human music, literature, and visual arts. Our culture is our currency. It was true. Alien species, some millions of years old, found human creativity refreshing and unpredictable. A song written by a teenager in Tokyo sold for enough galactic credits to fund a small city. A painting by a street artist in Sao Paulo was displayed in the most prestigious gallery on the Nexus homeworld. But not everyone on Earth was happy with the rapid changes. In hidden corners of the planet, groups formed that opposed alien contact. They called themselves the Human Purity Movement, and they believed that Earth should remain isolated. Their leader, a charismatic former military officer named Colonel Marcus Webb, broadcast from an unknown location. They come bearing gifts, but at what cost? Our culture is being diluted. Our children dream of traveling the stars instead of cherishing our home. We become pet curiosities for alien species. And what happens when they learn the truth about our ancient defense system? His words found fertile ground among those displaced by the economic changes. Protests erupted in major cities. Some turned violent, targeting alien traders and diplomatic facilities. Admiral Chun watched the unrest with growing concern. In her secure office, she met with Earth's Security Council. The Human Purity Movement is gaining strength, reported Director Sarah Kim of Global Intelligence. They've moved beyond protests. We've intercepted communications suggesting they're planning something major. Do they have access to any classified information about the QRM? Chen asked. We don't believe so, but Colonel Webb had high-level clearance before he went rogue. He knows the ancient defense story is a cover. If he reveals that to the galaxy, Chen's expression hardened. Double security on all QRM-related personnel and facilities. We can't allow that information to leak. But Webb had a different plan. He didn't intend to reveal Earth's secret. He intended to use it. Unknown to Earth's government, a small group of scientists sympathetic to his cause had retained fragments of the QRM technology. Not enough to build a full-scale device, but enough to create something smaller, more targeted. The crisis came to a head during the first anniversary of Earth's joining the Galactic Council. Representatives from dozens of species had come to Earth for a celebration of peace and cooperation. The main ceremony was held in New Geneva, a city built specifically to house Earth's growing diplomatic community. As Ambassador Park stood to give her speech, alarms began blaring. Security forces rushed in, their faces grim. Ambassador, we need to evacuate now. We've detected an anomalous quantum signature. Someone's activated a QRM device. Panic rippled through the assembled aliens. They had come in peace, and now it seemed Earth's terrible weapon was being turned on them. Wait, Park shouted over the chaos. This isn't our government. We're under attack, as much as you are. But her words were lost in the pandemonium. Alien ambassadors fled to their ships, many sending emergency transmissions to their home worlds. The message was clear: Earth had betrayed them. The device, hidden in the city's underground, was a crude approximation of the original QRM. It couldn't erase entire fleets, but it could create localized reality distortions. Buildings began to flicker in and out of existence. People reported seeing alternate versions of themselves. The fabric of reality itself was becoming unstable. Dr. Thompson and his team raced against time to counter the effect. It's a cascading quantum field, he explained to Admiral Chun as his fingers flew over his console. Webb's people didn't fully understand what they were building. If we don't stop it, the distortion will grow exponentially. How do we stop it? Chun demanded. We need to create an opposing field to cancel it out. But the only thing powerful enough. Thompson's face paled. We need to partially reactivate the original QRM. It was a desperate gambit. Using the QRM again, even in a limited capacity, would confirm to the galaxy that Earth still possessed the weapon. But the alternative was watching New Geneva and everyone in it cease to exist. Do it, Chen ordered. Deep beneath the surface, in the vault where the QRM components had been stored, technicians worked frantically to reassemble key systems. They didn't need the full device, just enough to generate a stabilizing field. Above ground, the situation deteriorated. The Vellani ambassador's crystalline form began to crack as reality shifted around him. The Nexus Collective's representative phased in and out of existence. Human security forces tried to maintain order, but how could they fight an enemy that attacked reality itself? Then, from the earth below, a new vibration emerged. The original QRM, even in its limited reactivation, was far more sophisticated than Webb's crude device. Its field expanded outward, not to erase but to stabilize. Where it met the chaotic distortions, it smoothed them out, returning reality to its proper state. The crisis lasted only minutes, but those minutes changed everything. Webb's device was neutralized, his supporters captured, and the immediate threat ended. But the damage to Earth's reputation was severe. In the aftermath, as medical teams tended to those affected by the reality distortions, Ambassador Park faced a hostile gathering of alien representatives. "You lied to us," accused the Thornicky ambassador. "There was no ancient defense system. You created that weapon." Park stood tall despite her exhaustion. "Yes, we created it. When faced with extinction, we did what we had to do. But today's attack proves that not all humans support its use. We stopped our own people to save you. Doesn't that count for something?" The Kethri ambassador's multiple eyes studied her. "It proves that you cannot control your own technology. What happens next time? What happens when another faction decides to use these quantum weapons?" "Then, we stop them, as we did today," Park replied. "Every species here has faced internal conflicts. Every civilization has had to deal with those who would misuse power. We're no different." "But you are different," the Vellani ambassador chimed, his cracked form still recovering. "Your weapons don't just destroy, they unmake. They attack the very foundations of existence." The debate raged for hours. Some species called for Earth to be quarantined, cut off from galactic society. Others, particularly those who had suffered under Zorthak rule, argued that Earth's power was a necessary deterrent against future aggressors. Finally, the eldest spoke. No one knew what species the eldest belonged to. They appeared as a shifting mass of light and thought older than any civilization in the Council. Their words carried the weight of eons. "The humans have brought change," the eldest intoned, their voice resonating in every mind present. "Change is often painful, often dangerous. But stagnation is death. For too long, the galaxy has been ruled by fear of the strong. Now, the strong must fear as well. This is balance." The eldest turned their attention to Park. "But balance requires responsibility. Earth must prove it can control what it has created. You must show that you are guardians, not conquerors." And so began Earth's true test. Not whether they could defend themselves, but whether they could resist the temptation to use their power for domination. The QRM technology was placed under international control, with safeguards requiring unanimous agreement from all Earth governments before activation. Colonel Webb and his followers were tried for crimes against humanity and acts of terrorism. During his trial, Webb remained unrepentant. "I did what I thought was right," he declared. "We were losing ourselves, becoming pets of the galaxy. Sometimes, fear is the only thing that earns respect." His words found some sympathy, even among those who condemned his actions. The rapid changes brought by First Contact had indeed been jarring. Entire industries had vanished, traditional ways of life had been upended, and humanity's place in the universe had shifted dramatically. But for every person who yearned for the old days, there were 10 who embraced the new possibilities. Young humans enrolled in galactic universities, learning alongside species from across the stars. Human artists collaborated with alien musicians to create forms of expression never before imagined. Scientists worked with their counterparts from advanced civilizations, pushing the boundaries of knowledge. Dr. Thompson, haunted by what his creation had wrought, dedicated himself to finding peaceful applications for quantum manipulation technology. Working with a team of human and alien scientists, he developed medical applications that could repair genetic damage at the quantum level, potentially ending hereditary diseases across the galaxy. "We've opened a door that can't be closed," he told his team during one late-night session. "Our choice is whether we walk through it as destroyers or healers." The first year after the New Geneva incident was crucial. Earth had to prove it could be trusted. Every action was scrutinized by the galactic community. When pirates attacked a Kethri colony ship near Sol Space, Earth's fleet responded immediately, saving thousands of lives. When a plague struck a Vellani world, human medical teams were among the first to arrive with aid. Slowly, trust began to rebuild. The galaxy learned that humans, for all their dangerous potential, genuinely sought peace. The QRM remained dismantled, its components under constant guard, but its existence served as a deterrent to any who might threaten Earth or its allies. Ambassador Park, addressing the Galactic Council on the second anniversary of First Contact, spoke words that would be remembered for generations. We are a young species, capable of both creation and destruction on a scale that frightens even us. But we choose creation. We choose peace. We choose to be members of this galactic community, not its rulers. The weapon that erased the Zorthak fleet will remain forever in our past, a reminder of what desperation can drive a species to do. But our future, we hope, will be written in the language of cooperation, discovery, and mutual growth. The council chamber, once filled with suspicion and fear, now resonated with cautious optimism. Earth had passed its first tests, but many more lay ahead. The galaxy had learned that humans were not to be underestimated, but also that they were not to be feared if approached with respect. And in the vast emptiness where the Zorthak fleet had once threatened Earth, space remained empty, a monument to both humanity's terrible power and their decision to use it only when no other choice remained. The message was clear across the galaxy. Approach Earth in peace, and find friends. Approach in war, and risk being erased from existence itself. 5 years had passed since humanity's shocking entry onto the galactic stage. Earth had transformed from an isolated world to a bustling hub of interstellar activity. The space around the planet buzzed with traffic, trading vessels, diplomatic shuttles, and tourist ships carrying beings eager to see the world that had done the impossible. In the restored city of New Geneva, Ambassador Lisa Park walked through the memorial garden. Each tree represented a life lost during Webb's terrorist attack, human and alien alike. She paused at a crystalline monument, running her fingers over the names etched in multiple languages. Ambassador Park, a young voice called. She turned to see Gene Shun, one of Earth's newest diplomatic trainees. He was part of the first generation to grow up in the post-contact world, as comfortable with alien customs as human ones. Yes, Gene. The council has called an emergency session. Something's happened in the Outer Rim. Park's expression darkened. The Outer Rim had been Zorthak territory, and since the Empire's fleet had vanished, it had become a lawless region. Warlords, pirates, and worse had carved up the abandoned systems. The council chamber was in chaos when she arrived. Representatives shouted over each other, their universal translators creating a cacophony of overlapping voices. The eldest's luminous form pulsed for attention, bringing gradual silence. A new threat has emerged from the Outer Rim, the eldest announced. They call themselves the Erasure Cult. Park's blood ran cold. On the main display, images appeared of ships bearing a disturbing emblem, a stylized representation of the quantum wave that had destroyed the Zorthak fleet. Ambassador Kroger of the Thornicky spoke first. These fanatics worship what happened to the Zorthak. They believe the erasure was a divine act, a cleansing of the galaxy. They've been attacking former Zorthak slave worlds, purifying them of any remaining Zorthak presence. How is that possible? Park asked. The QRM technology is secured on Earth. They don't have the technology, the Kethri ambassador explained, her eyes blinking rapidly. They use conventional weapons, but they've killed millions of Zorthak civilians, females, children, elderly. Anyone with Zorthak blood is a target. The weight of unintended consequences pressed down on Park. The erasure of the Zorthak fleet had been an act of desperate self-defense, but it had inspired something monstrous. Earth must take responsibility, demanded a new voice. Ambassador Zektar stepped forward, a young Zorthak who had been off-world during the erasure. Your weapon didn't just destroy our fleet. It created a symbol for every species we ever wronged to rally behind. The blood of our innocent is on your hands. The chamber erupted in arguments. Some defended Earth, pointing out that the Zorthak had brought destruction upon themselves. Others supported Zektar, arguing that Earth's action had destabilized the entire region. Park raised her hand for silence. Earth acknowledges its role in this tragedy. We will not stand by while innocents are slaughtered in the name of what we did. I propose a joint task force to stop the Erasure cult and protect Zorthak civilians. And why should we trust Earth to lead such an effort? Zektar challenged. Because we're the only ones they won't attack, Park replied. The cult views us as holy instruments. They might listen to us. Back on Earth, Admiral Chun received the news with grim determination. The mission will be dangerous, not just physically, but politically. Many humans had no sympathy for the Zorthak, remembering how close Earth had come to enslavement. She assembled her team in the command center. I know what I'm asking is difficult. We're going to save the people who try to destroy us. But if we don't, we prove that humanity is exactly what our critics claim, a species too dangerous for the galaxy. Captain Rodriguez, survivor of the original battle, stepped forward. Admiral, my ship and crew volunteer for the mission. We fought the Zorthak, but we're not murderers. We'll stop these cultists. Dr. Thompson, looking older than his years, also volunteered. I created the weapon they worship. Perhaps I can help them understand it was never meant to inspire genocide. The task force assembled quickly. Human ships joined by vessels from species who supported the mission. Notably, several were from worlds the Zorthak had once enslaved, their crews understanding that revenge and justice were not the same. The journey to the Outer Rim took 2 weeks through hyperspace. As they emerged in the Kalos system, the devastation was immediately apparent. What had once been a thriving Zorthak colony was now a graveyard. Cities burned on the planet below, and debris from destroyed orbital stations floated past their ships. Biosigns? Admiral Chun asked from the bridge of the ESS Redemption, Earth's newest and most advanced warship. Minimal, the sensor operator reported. Maybe a few thousand survivors out of a population of 50 million. A signal came through, weak, desperate. This is Governor Maltek of Kalos Prime. Is anyone there? Please, we have children. We need evacuation. This is Admiral Chun of Earth. We're here to help. Transmit your coordinates. There was silence, then a bitter laugh. Earth, have you come to finish what your worshippers started? We've come to stop them, Chun replied firmly. You have my word as an officer and a human. We will protect you. The evacuation was heartbreaking. Zorthak civilians, once proud and strong, now huddled in ruins. Children with mandibles still soft with youth clung to parents who looked at the human rescuers with a mixture of fear and desperate hope. Dr. Thompson worked with the medical teams, treating the wounded. A young Zorthak, barely adolescent, looked up at him with 4 eyes filled with pain. Why do they hate us so much? Thompson had no easy answer. Fear and pain can twist people into doing terrible things. Your people's empire hurt many, but that doesn't make this right. No child should suffer for their parents' sins. As they loaded the last survivors, sensors detected incoming ships. The Erasure cult had arrived. The cult's fleet was a hodgepodge of vessels from various species, all painted with the same disturbing symbol. Their leader's face appeared on the communication screen. A Villani whose crystalline form was etched with scars. Umans, blessed erasers. Why you shield the unclean? They would have enslaved your world. Let us finish the holy work you began. Admiral Chun stood tall. There is nothing holy about what happened 5 years ago. It was survival, nothing more. Stand down and surrender. Blasphemy, the cult leader shrieked. You deny your own divinity? Then you too are corrupted. The cult ships opened fire, but they were no match for Earth's modern fleet. The ESS Redemption's shields absorbed the attacks easily. But Chun hesitated to return fire. These weren't military targets. They were misguided civilians in armed ships. Admiral, they're targeting the refugee transport, Rodriguez warned. That decided it. Disable their weapons only. Try to minimize casualties. The battle was brief, but intense. Earth's precision strikes disabled the cult ships one by one, but the fanatics refused to surrender. Several ships attempted suicide runs, forcing the task force to destroy them completely. When it was over, hundreds of cultists were dead, and Chun felt the weight of each life. They had saved thousands of Zorthak civilians, but at the cost of killing members of species Earth was supposed to be allied with. The aftermath was complicated. Some in the Galactic Council praised Earth's intervention. Others questioned whether humans had the right to police the galaxy. The Erasure cult, far from being destroyed, used the battle as propaganda. The false humans had revealed themselves by protecting the enemy. But the most significant moment came during a quiet ceremony on Kalos Prime. Governor Maltek, representing the Zorthak survivors, stood before Admiral Chun and her team. 5 years ago, your people erased our fleet. Today, you saved our children. I do not know how to reconcile these facts, but I know this. You could have let us die. You didn't. The Zorthak have no word for this concept, so I will use yours. Thank you. It was a small step, but a significant one. The rescue mission had shown that Earth would take responsibility for the consequences of its actions, even when those consequences were unintended. Over the following months, the Joint Task Force continued its work. They saved dozens of Zorthak colonies from the Erasure cult, and, slowly, the cult's support began to wane. Many species who had initially sympathized with the cult goals were horrified by their methods. Dr. Thompson spent his time not in labs, but in refugee camps, helping Zorthak survivors and speaking to former cult members. He became known as the father of Erasure, who preached against his own creation's misuse. I gave humanity a weapon of last resort, he would say. But weapons, even terrible ones, are just tools. What matters is the wisdom to know when not to use them. His words carried weight because everyone knew he had created the QRM and had been the one to activate it. If the man who had erased 1 million Zorthak could now work to save them, perhaps reconciliation was possible. The turning point came when intelligence reported the cult was planning its largest attack yet. They had gathered a massive fleet and intended to strike at Zorthak Prime itself, the Empire's former capital, now home to billions of civilians. The Galactic Council was divided. Some argued it wasn't their problem. Let the Zorthak defend themselves. Others pointed out that a successful attack would inspire copycats across the galaxy. Ambassador Zektar, who had been Earth's harshest critic, surprised everyone by speaking in favor of intervention. I have watched humans risk their lives to save my people. I have seen them refuse to use their terrible weapon, even when it would have been easier. If Earth leads, Zorthak will follow. The alliance that formed was unprecedented. Human ships flew alongside Zorthak vessels. Former slaves and former masters united against a common threat. The battle for Zorthak Prime would either heal old wounds or tear them open forever. The cult had gathered over 3,000 ships, crews from a dozen species united in their twisted faith. They expected to face only the weakened Zorthak defense forces. Instead, they found a combined fleet of 10,000 vessels, with Earth's most advanced ships at the vanguard. Admiral Chen opened a channel to the cult fleet. This is your final warning. Stand down. The galaxy stands united against genocide. The cult leader appeared on screen, his scarred form trembling with rage. The false prophets and the unclean stand together. This only proves the righteousness of our cause. All must be erased and begun anew. Then, you've made your choice, Chen said sadly. To her fleet, she ordered, all ships engage. Protect Zorthak Prime. The battle was the largest space engagement since the Zorthak War itself. Cult ships, driven by fanatical fervor, fought with suicidal determination. But they faced not just superior numbers, but the combined tactical expertise of the galaxy's greatest military minds. Human creativity merged with Zorthak discipline. Balani precision complemented Kethri adaptability. It was a symphony of cooperation that would have been impossible just years before. The ESS Redemption led the charge, its advanced shields and weapons carving through cult formations. But Chen was careful to offer surrender at every opportunity. Many cultists, seeing their cause was lost, accepted. Others fought to the bitter end. In the battle's final phase, the cult's remaining leadership attempted a desperate gambit. They had cobbled together a crude approximation of QRM technology, not enough to erase matter, but sufficient to create a localized reality bomb that could devastate Zorthak Prime's surface. Admiral, they're powering up some kind of quantum weapon, Dr. Thompson reported from his station. It's unstable. If it detonates, can you stop it? Thompson's fingers flew over his controls. Maybe, but I need to get close. Very close. Without hesitation, Captain Rodriguez volunteered. My ship's the fastest. We'll get you there, document. The run to the cult flagship was harrowing. Enemy fire lit up space around them as Rodriguez's ship danced through the chaos. Thompson worked frantically, using his intimate knowledge of quantum mechanics to find a weakness in the cult's crude device. There, he shouted. If we can hit these exact coordinates with a focused graviton beam, it'll cause a feedback loop. The device will consume itself. Rodriguez grinned. Leave that to us. The shot was perfect. The cult's quantum weapon imploded, taking their flagship with it. Seeing their leadership destroyed and their ultimate weapon failed, the remaining cultists surrendered or fled. Zorthak Prime was saved, billions of lives preserved, and in that moment, something fundamental shifted in galactic politics. Standing on the bridge of a Zorthak battleship, Admiral Chun accepted the formal gratitude of the Zorthak High Command. General Krexenel, cousin to the long-erased Commander Krextau, spoke with emotion thick in his voice. You erased our fleet when we threatened you. You saved our world when others threatened us. The Zorthak do not forget either action. From this day forward, Earth has no enemy in the Zorthak. We shall stand together or fall separately. The alliance between Earth and the Zorthak, once unthinkable, became one of the strongest in the galaxy. It sent a clear message. The past could be overcome, enemies could become allies, and the power to destroy could be transformed into the power to protect. Dr. Thompson received the galaxy's highest honor for his role in stopping the cult's weapon. In his acceptance speech, he said words that would echo through history. 5 years ago, I helped create a weapon that erased 1 million beings from existence. It was the darkest day of my life, even though it saved my world. Today, I help save billions of those same beings' cousins, children, and kin. The technology remains the same, but the choice of how to use it makes all the difference. Let's choose wisely. The erasure cult, broken and scattered, faded into history. But its rise and fall had taught the galaxy important lessons. Power without wisdom was destruction. Revenge without justice was murder. And sometimes, the greatest strength was in choosing not to use the weapons at your disposal. Earth's reputation evolved from feared newcomer to respected mediator. The QRM technology remained dismantled, but everyone knew it could be rebuilt if necessary. That knowledge kept the peace more effectively than any treaty. Years later, in schools across the galaxy, children of all species learned about the erasure crisis. How humanity's desperate weapon had inspired a genocidal cult. How Earth had taken responsibility and led the fight to stop it. How former enemies had become allies in the face of shared threat. It was a complex story without clear heroes or villains. The Zorthak had been aggressors who paid a terrible price. Humans had been defenders who unleashed unintended consequences. The cultists had been victims who became murderers. But, in the end, the galaxy had chosen cooperation over conflict, healing over hatred. Ambassador Park, now elderly, would often stand in the memorial garden and reflect on how far they'd come. The trees had grown tall, representing not just lives lost, but hope renewed. Human and Zorthak children played together in the shade, their laughter a sound that once would have been impossible. The power to erase still existed, locked away but not forgotten. But humanity had proven something more important than their ability to destroy. They had shown the wisdom to build, the courage to protect, and the humility to take responsibility for their actions. The galaxy had learned to respect human power, but more importantly, it had learned to trust human restraint. And in that trust, a new age of cooperation was born, built on the ashes of what had been erased. 20 years had passed since the erasure crisis, and the galaxy had entered what historians would call the Great Reconciliation. Earth stood at the center of a vast network of alliances, trade agreements, and cultural exchanges. The planet that had once faced extinction now helped shape interstellar policy. But peace, as humanity had learned, was never permanent. Deep in the void between galaxies, in regions where stars were sparse and darkness absolute, something stirred. Ancient sensors, dormant for millennia, detected the quantum signature they had been programmed to watch for. Automated systems, built by a civilization that had vanished long before humans discovered fire, began their activation sequence. On Earth, life continued its new normal. Dr. Marcus Thompson, now in his 70s, taught at the Galactic Institute of Quantum Sciences. His students came from 50 different worlds, eager to learn from a man who had created and then helped control the most dangerous weapon in known space. Professor Thompson asked Silvix, a young Vellani whose crystalline form sparkled with curiosity, "Is it true that you've developed new applications for quantum manipulation?" "Peaceful ones." Thompson smiled, his aged face crinkling. "Indeed. Next week, we'll discuss how quantum field manipulation can repair cellular damage at the subatomic level. The same principles that can erase matter can also restore it. It's all about intent and application." The lecture was interrupted by an urgent alert on Thompson's personal communicator. Only a handful of people had access to this emergency frequency, and they wouldn't use it lightly. "Class dismissed," he said, his tone suddenly serious. "Please review chapters 12 through 15 for next session." As students filed out, murmuring in confusion, Thompson activated his secure connection. Admiral Chen's face appeared, and, despite her own advanced age, her expression was sharp with concern. "Marcus, we need you at command immediately. We've detected something unprecedented." An hour later, Thompson stood in Earth's Strategic Command Center, surrounded by the planet's military and scientific leadership. The main display showed a section of space at the galaxy's edge, with sensor data that made no sense. "It started 3 days ago," explained Director Kim from Intelligence. "Our deep space monitoring stations detected quantum fluctuations unlike anything in our database. But here's the disturbing part. The signature is similar to QRM technology, but far more advanced." Thompson studied the data, his enhanced neural implants processing information at superhuman speeds. "This isn't possible. The quantum matrices are too complex. It would take computational power beyond anything we've achieved." "That's what we thought," Chen said, "until we detected this." The display changed, showing a massive structure emerging from the void. It was clearly artificial, a geometric impossibility of angles and surfaces that hurt to look at directly. It dwarfed the largest space stations, approaching the size of a small moon. "It's sending a signal," the communications officer reported. "All frequencies, all languages. It's addressed to Earth." The message played, its words forming in every mind regardless of species or language. "To the wielders of erasure. Your awakening of the quantum flame has been detected. The Watchers have returned. Prepare for judgment." Silence filled the command center. Then, chaos erupted as everyone spoke at once. Who were the Watchers? What was the quantum flame? What did judgment mean? Thompson raised his hand for quiet. "The probe. The alien probe we reverse-engineered 50 years ago. We always wondered who sent it." "You think these Watchers are the original creators?" Chen asked. "It fits. They seeded the galaxy with technology, waiting to see who would discover it. And we didn't just discover it, we weaponized it on a scale that apparently triggered their return. The implications were staggering. Humanity hadn't invented the QRM. They had merely rediscovered it. And now the original creators had come to judge what they had done with it." News of the Watchers spread across the galaxy like wildfire. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session, with representatives demanding answers Earth didn't have. Fear gripped many worlds. If these beings had created QRM technology as a mere probe, what weapons did they possess? Ambassador Park, pulled from retirement for this crisis, addressed the council. "Fellow sentients, we face the unknown together. These Watchers, whoever they are, contacted Earth but threaten us all. We must stand united." "United?" scoffed the new Thornicky ambassador. "Earth's meddling with forces beyond understanding has brought this upon us. Perhaps if we distance ourselves from you, the Watchers will spare the rest of the galaxy." It was a sentiment echoed by others. Old fears resurfaced. Some species began pulling their citizens from Earth, closing embassies, canceling trade agreements. The carefully built peace of 2 decades threatened to crumble in days. But not everyone abandoned Earth. Ambassador Zektar of the Zorthak stood firmly. 20 years ago, Earth saved my people from extinction. We will not abandon them now." The Vellani, Ketheri, and dozen other species also pledged support. The galaxy was dividing into those who stood with Earth and those who sought to distance themselves. Meanwhile, the Watcher construct continued its approach. It moved impossibly fast, ignoring the laws of physics that govern normal space travel. Defensive fleets positioned themselves between it and inhabited systems, but everyone knew their weapons would likely be useless against such advanced technology. Dr. Thompson worked frantically with his team to understand the Watcher's technology. The quantum signatures were maddeningly familiar, yet alien, like seeing a master painter's work after only knowing children's drawings. "Look at this," Dr. Park said, highlighting a data pattern. "The construct isn't just using quantum manipulation. It's existing in multiple quantum states simultaneously. It's not fully in our reality until it chooses to be." "A Schrodinger's ship," Thompson mused. "Brilliant. It exists in all possible positions until observed, then collapses to a single state. That's how it moves so fast. It's not traveling through space. It's selecting which space to exist in." Understanding the technology was one thing. Countering it was another. Earth's defenders prepared for the worst while hoping for the best. The partially reassembled QRM stood ready, though everyone knew it would likely be like facing a cannon with a slingshot. 3 weeks after first detection, the Watcher construct stopped just outside the solar system. Then, without warning, a small craft separated from the main structure and headed directly for Earth. "It's requesting permission to land," the communications officer reported, bewildered. "They want to meet at the United Nations building in New Geneva." The security preparations were extreme. Earth's best soldiers, equipped with the finest technology the galaxy could provide, surrounded the landing site. Scientists set up every scanner and detector available. If the Watchers proved hostile, humanity would at least gather what data they could. The craft that landed was disappointingly simple, a smooth sphere that settled gently onto the prepared platform. For long minutes, nothing happened. Then, without any visible seam or door, 3 figures emerged. They were humanoid, but clearly not human. Taller, with elongated limbs and faces that seemed to shift between expressions too quickly to follow. Their skin appeared to be made of the same semi-solid light as their construct. When they moved, they left brief afterimages, as if reality struggled to keep up with them. The lead figure spoke, its voice resonating directly in the minds of all present. "I am the Assessor. We are the Kythera, those you call Watchers. We seeded this galaxy with potential, and you have exceeded our darkest expectations." Admiral Chun stepped forward, representing humanity. "We greet you, Kythera. We have many questions." "As do we," the Assessor replied. "You discovered our probe, understood its principles, and within mere decades created a weapon that unmakes reality. Do you understand what you have done?" "We defended ourselves," Chun replied firmly. "The Zorthak Empire threatened our extinction. We did what was necessary to survive." "Survival." The Assessor seemed to taste the word. "Yes, that is the excuse your kind always gives. Do you know how many civilizations have discovered our probes?" "Hundreds. Most use them for energy, for medicine, for exploration. You used it to erase 1,000,000 souls from existence." "And then we dismantled it," Thompson interjected, stepping beside Chun. "We recognized the danger and chose restraint." The Assessor's shifting features focused on him. The Creator speaks. "Tell me, Dr. Thompson, do you regret your creation?" "Every day," Thompson answered honestly. "But I don't regret saving my world. Given the same choice, I would make it again." "The question is, what have we learned since?" For the first time, the Assessor showed something like approval. "Indeed, that is the question. Come, we would see more of your world and its people. The judgment is not yet made." What followed was the most bizarre diplomatic visit in human history. The 3 Kythera toured Earth, but not its capitals or monuments. They visited refugee camps filled with former Zorthak civilians who had settled on Earth. They observed human-alien hybrid schools where children of different species learned together. They attended a memorial service for those lost in the Erasure cult attacks. At each location, they asked questions, not about technology or military strength, but about choices, about mercy, about what humanity had done with the power they had accidentally gained. The turning point came during a visit to a hospital in Mumbai. There, Human doctors used modified quantum field technology to treat a young Vellani child whose crystalline structure was failing. The same principles that could erase matter were being used to repair it at the subatomic level. "Show us," the assessor demanded. Dr. Yuki Nakamura, the lead physician, explained as she worked. "The quantum field destabilizes the damaged crystal matrix. Then, we guide it to reform in its proper configuration. It's delicate work, too much power, and we could erase the patient entirely. Too little, and the healing won't hold. You use the power of unmaking to heal," the assessor observed. "How many have you treated this way?" "Thousands," Dr. Nakamura replied. "From dozens of species. The technology that Dr. Thompson created to destroy has become our most powerful medical tool." The assessor turned to Thompson. "You taught them this?" "I helped develop the peaceful applications, yes. It seemed necessary. If we were going to live with the knowledge of erasure, we needed to balance it with creation." The Kithira conferred among themselves, their communication too fast and complex for translation. Finally, the assessor spoke. "We have seen enough. Gather your leaders. It is time for the judgment." The assembly hall in New Geneva had never hosted such a diverse gathering. Representatives from every major civilization in the galaxy attended in person or by hologram. The three Kithira stood at the center, their forms seeming more solid now, more present. "We are an old race," the assessor began. "Older than your stars. We have watched countless civilizations rise and fall. Long ago, we learned the danger of the power you now possess. We seeded the galaxy with probes, hoping species would discover them gradually, learning wisdom alongside power." The chamber was silent, everyone hanging on the alien's words. "Humanity, you have broken our models. You weaponized our gift faster than any species before. You created a horror that unmakes reality itself. By our laws, you should be erased, your world cleansed, the knowledge removed from the galaxy." Gasps and cries of alarm filled the chamber. Some representatives from fearful species seemed almost relieved, better Earth than all of them. But others, those who had stood by humanity, raised voices in protest. The assessor raised a hand for silence. "However, you have also done something no other species managed. You used the weapon once, recognized its horror, and chose to turn away from it. When others used your actions to justify genocide, you stood against them. You protected those you had once fought. You turned the power of erasure into the power of healing." The Kithira moved, and suddenly, the air filled with holographic images. Scenes from the past decades played out: the erasure of the Zorthak fleet, the rescue missions, the battles against the cult, the hospitals and schools where former enemies worked together. "You are dangerous," the assessor continued. "But danger tempered by wisdom, power balanced by restraint. You have passed the test not by being perfect, but by choosing to be better." "So what happens now?" Admiral Chen asked. "Now, you take your place among the shepherd species. Those who have proven they can wield ultimate power without being corrupted by it. The construct we arrived in contains knowledge, not weapons, but understanding. How to heal what was thought unhealable. How to create where there was nothing. How to guard against those who would abuse such power." The assessor focused on Thompson. "You, creator of erasure, will be the first to learn. What you made in desperation to destroy, you will remake in wisdom to preserve. This is both gift and burden. And if we refuse," someone called out, "then we leave, and you continue as you are. But know this, yours is not the only galaxy. There are threats in the void between stars that make your former enemies seem like children. The shepherds stand against them. Choose wisely." The debate that followed was intense, but brief. Earth had spent decades proving itself to the galaxy. Now, offered the chance to protect it, the choice was clear. "We accept," Chen announced, speaking for Earth and its allies. "We will be shepherds." The Kithira seemed pleased, though their alien features made it hard to be certain. "Then let the teaching begin. But remember, with great power comes the responsibility to know when not to use it. You have learned this lesson in blood. Do not forget it." As the Kithira returned to their ship, Thompson found himself walking alongside the assessor. "Tell me," he asked, "how many species have made the choice we did? To turn away from ultimate power?" The assessor paused, its form rippling. "In all our eons of watching? 3, including humanity. You are the youngest, the most violent, and, paradoxically, the most promising. Your species' capacity for both creation and destruction is unmatched. That is why you are dangerous. That is also why you are needed. Needed for what? The assessor gestured to the stars. The universe is vast, Dr. Thompson, and not all who dwell in it are as willing to choose wisdom over power as humanity has proven to be. The shepherds guard against those who would unmake reality itself for their own ends. You created a weapon. Now, you must help ensure such weapons are never used again. As the Kythera ship departed, it left behind a smaller construct, a building-sized crystalline structure that hummed with potential. Earth scientists, led by Thompson, would spend years understanding its contents. The knowledge within would transform not just humanity, but the entire galaxy. Medical techniques that could cure any disease. Energy systems that drew power from quantum fluctuations. Transportation that folded space without breaking it. All based on the same principles that had once created the erasure weapon, but turned toward life instead of death. The galaxy watched as Earth shared these gifts freely, asking nothing in return except that they be used wisely. Former enemies became partners in research. Species that had never cooperated found common ground in the pursuit of knowledge. And, always in the background, Earth's defenders stood ready. The QRM remained dismantled, but not forgotten. Other weapons, based on Kythera knowledge, were developed, but never used. They were deterrents, reminders that those who would threaten peace faced powers beyond comprehension. Ambassador Park, in what would be her final speech to the Galactic Council, captured the moment perfectly. We stand at a crossroads. We have been given power beyond imagination, and chosen to use it for protection, not conquest. For healing, not harm. This is humanity's promise to the galaxy. We will be your shepherds, your guardians against the dark. Not because we are perfect, but because we remember the price of imperfection. The era of the shepherds had begun. Earth, once a small blue marble threatened with extinction, now stood as protector of countless worlds. The weapon that had erased 1,000,000 souls had become the foundation for saving billions. But in the void between galaxies, things stirred that would test humanity's resolve. The Kythera had spoken of threats that made the Zorthak seem like children. Soon, too soon, humanity would learn why shepherds were needed. For now, though, there was peace. There was hope. And in the quantum field that connected all things, there was the knowledge that sometimes the greatest victory was choosing not to fight at all. The void between galaxies was not empty. In the spaces between stars, where light took millions of years to travel, something ancient and malevolent stirred. It had many names across many dead civilizations. The Devourers, the Void Hunters, the Reality Eaters. But they called themselves the Nihil. For eons, they had fed on galaxies, unmaking entire civilizations not for resources or conquest, but for the simple pleasure of watching existence become nothing. They were the antithesis of life itself, beings who had long ago chosen entropy over creation, chaos over order. And now they had detected something interesting. A young galaxy had developed erasure technology. The quantum signature was unmistakable. Someone had learned to unmake reality. To the Nihil, this was both an affront and an opportunity. None but they should wield such power. And a civilization that had discovered erasure would provide the most satisfying feast of all. On Earth, 50 years had passed since the Kythera's judgment. Dr. Marcus Thompson had died peacefully at the age of 95, surrounded by students from 100 worlds. His funeral was attended by billions, a testament to how the creator of humanity's darkest weapon had become the architect of its brightest future. His successor, Dr. Elena Vasquez, stood in the Shepard Command Center, monitoring the vast network of sensors that now protected the galaxy.